everyone, and welcome to ABN. This is the show Who Am I, a youth program. Pastor Jared and I are here today with you to talk to you about anger today. And we just want to let you know that today we'd love you to call in. The phone number can be on the bottom of your screen when you're watching. Dial us up, call us if you have any comments or questions, concerns. If you want to talk to us, debate us, anything about anger today we're talking about. And we'll bring up some scriptures throughout the show, and we're just going to delve deep into it and see how anger affects us, what we can do to step away from anger, and really look at some scriptures that talk about anger versus joy in our lives. Today will be one of our last shows that Pastor Jared and I do for a little while. We're going to take a break for a time, and we just want to say we've been grateful to be here with you and to share our time with you. And we'd love for you to call in and chat with us today. But talking about anger, there's so many scriptures that talk about anger versus having the joy of the Lord, and how anger just brings us to a negative place, somewhere we don't want to be, somewhere that takes us to depression and a lot of different places in our life that we shouldn't be at. And so as we were watching the preview into the show, we wanted to hit on this topic because it's something that especially us as men can deal with, but I know that women can definitely deal with anger, and it's something that me in my life personally, I've dealt with very much growing up. I used to have a lot of anger issues, and the Lord has been dealing with me on that in so many different ways. He's given me a wife that's very patient with me. My parents have done so much in my life to kind of keep me from anger or hold it off in my life for a long time. I'm so blessed to have great parents that just cared so much about me and have blessed my life so much. And it keeps me from being angry. But I noticed that in my life, anger can rise up in many different areas. And so we want to talk a little bit about it. Pastor Jared, what do you think about anger? How does it affect us in our lives? And what do you want to talk about anger?
Well, you know, as you were talking, it made me think about a couple of things. The Bible treats anger in an interesting way. We see a passage of Scripture where it reads that we're supposed to be angry, but to sin not. It says, be angry, but don't sin in the process. And so, typically when I think about anger, I think that anger usually leads me to a point where I'm willing to sin. Anger is something that rises up inside of me, causes me to react to a situation, and usually the reaction that I have is not a healthy one. It's not a constructive reaction, and it's definitely a reaction that can lead me to a place of where I regret my behavior. And so when I look at the Bible and I think, well, why does the Bible tell us it's okay to be angry? I think that when the Bible's talking about anger, it's talking about a general attitude that we take towards things when we understand that something that is wrong needs to be something that we disapprove of. Where if I see somebody doing something or I see something in my own life that isn't the way that God would want that thing to be, then I should be angry about that. It should be something that I don't agree with, that I'm firm against, that I'm willing to stand up and fight against. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I should come into a place where I emotionally react. I think that as soon as you begin to allow your emotions to become a part of your experience with anger, you get to a place where you start to sin. In my own life, I've seen that anger has led me to probably more hardship than any other type of sin, because anger causes me to behave in a way that I wouldn't normally behave. It causes me to break rules that I wouldn't normally break. It causes me to do things that could not only put me in danger, but put other people in danger. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I was driving with my wife one time, and we're driving down the street, and my wife was driving, and she was going to make a left turn. When she went to make the left turn, she'd gone too far into the road, and she was kind of in the middle of the intersection, and she didn't have the right to turn left yet. She had a blinking light, but there was still a green light, and traffic was coming against her. And this van with two guys in it came around and had to come around her in the intersection. They turned, and they screamed, and they gave her the finger. And it made me really angry. And I jumped out of my car on my side, and I ran out towards the van, and I started waving at them and telling them I wanted them to come back. And I was angry with them. I wanted to hurt them. And these two guys, they jumped out of their van, and they came running at me. And I was very angry, so I wanted to fight these two men. And I started going towards them. In my hand, I had my cell phone. I've been using my cell phone when I was in the car. And I put my cell phone in my coat pocket so that I could use my hands to fight. when I put my phone in my coat pocket, I think that the men thought that I might be reaching for a gun or some kind of a weapon. So when they saw that, they immediately froze. And then they froze, and then they got back to headed back towards their van, and then they were yelling back as they drove away. Once I calmed down and I thought about the situation, I thought, boy, what would have happened if I had to get in a fight with these two men? What if they knew how to fight well? Would I be able to do this without being hurt? I'm sure I would be hurt. Would I be hurt badly? Maybe I wouldn't have any advantage at all. Maybe these men would have just beat me badly. And I was actually thankful that I did that with my hand, because it made them think to leave me alone and I didn't have to deal with that situation. Oftentimes anger can put us in a situation that can not only be dangerous but can be destructive. So I definitely think that anger is something that we have to learn to control, we have to watch out for, and we have to avoid the emotions that come with it. What about you, Pastor Dave?
Yeah, well, when you said that, it made me think, what if you'd got knocked down or something happened and they were good fighters or they were stronger, whatever. Two guys against you. Now, you're a big dude. You've been in the military. We were talking about this earlier. You've been in fights with guys in your troop or when you were in the military. I don't know what you call it, in the barracks or wherever you were. And, what if something would have happened and they would have charged your car and, punched the window in and ripped your wife out of the car too? You never know what could have happened. For me, that's a pretty severe story. And I've never gotten to that point where I'm going to get out of the car and take some dudes out. But I am quite smaller than you. I'm just a little fella, and fighting with my fists is not my biggest thing. Fighting with my words is really big for me. But I want to start off simple. Simple story. I think can relate to a lot of kids watching TV. I know kids in high school, man, that are addicted to video games. And for a very long time when I would play these certain video games, I was content with losing. Like, I would play this Modern Warfare, or I'd play an NFL game or whatever, and I was horrible, not very good at video games, didn't grow up with them, and so I'd lose and I'd be like, okay, whatever, I lost, it's normal. But then I started playing more and I'd get pretty good at them, and after a while, if I was playing someone or playing a computer or whatever, and I would lose, I would get furious, and I would start to, I would squeeze my controller. I knew I couldn't throw the controller, because they're like $50. If you break a controller, you're in trouble. You got to go buy a new one. It's just too expensive. So I'd take my controller and squeeze it as hard as I could to try and let my anger loose. And I'd find myself so many times just turning the game off, walking away from it, like just so angry, like this is ridiculous, that shouldn't have happened, or I shouldn't have done this, or this shouldn't have happened. And I find myself becoming angry, so I stopped playing video games for a while. And I saw that I wasn't as angry anymore. Like, life was okay. Everything's fine. It's just a game, right? That's what everybody would say. But even in sports growing up, I would get so angry with losing. But I've learned to kind of curb that anger and use that passion in a different way to spur on, encouragement and to uplift others rather than tearing them down or just being so negative towards people around me. So that's one story I'll share about some anger in my life with video games. I'll probably share some more. But in our world today, it seems like you said, people driving get very angry. People at work can be very disgruntled, very angry. Like, is it okay to be angry? Because a lot of people carry out their anger in very different ways.
Well, in my experience, and this is the thing that I'm starting to realize, is that typically anger is a very negative thing. There's the productiveness that you're looking for in life, living a better life, fulfilling your dreams, fulfilling your hopes, the things that we hope for. Anger has a way of deterring those things, causing a problem for us. So, again, I go back to this verse, be angry and sin not. Why does the Bible tell us it's okay to be angry? And I think we really have to understand what the definition of anger is and what that really means. Anger, the way we treat it today, is a reaction that we have to a high-stress situation. When we're stressed out or when we have a lot of pressure on us, whether that be something like playing a video game like Pastor Dave was talking about, or we're in an environment where we're driving and we're dealing with intense pressure, what'll happen is our body will react, and it'll start causing us to go into a physical mode that God gave us so that we could defend ourselves and we could run away from danger. And we call this thing fight or flight mode. And this fight or flight mode is a time where your body will give you extra adrenaline and certain chemicals that can help launch you and cause you to do things, be stronger, be faster, run harder, run further, and act like that. The problem is that in our society, if we don't have a healthy way to let those things go, that stuff can be very dangerous for us. And so when we're angry people, or when we have a lot of stress on us, a lot of pressure that we don't know how to deal with in a healthy way, it can cause those types of things to eat at us, deteriorate, and adrenaline can burst out and cause us to act badly in certain situations. Something happened to me one time that really made me think about how anger and how I react to anger and how anger is in my life. And it had to do with me and my wife. My wife, Diana, she's a healthy girl. She's smaller. She's much smaller than me, of course. I have an 18-inch neck. She has an 18-inch waist. So there's a big difference between the two of us. Well, Diana was saying things to me that were making me angry. I was dealing with other stress, too. I had stress. I had pressure on me from different areas of my life. And my wife was saying things to me that were pushing my buttons, that were causing me to act out. Now, I didn't feel like I'm so much bigger than Diane. I didn't feel like, oh, you know, I'm able to destroy her with one punch. I just felt like this person is antagonizing me and making me angry, and I want them to stop. So I lashed out, spoke loudly, acted aggressively, say, stop it, leave me alone. And I look at my wife's face. Now, my wife, from my perspective, I'm just have another person who's irritating me and I want them to stop. But from my wife's perspective, she's much smaller than me. I'm a threat. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm dangerous to her. And all of a sudden, she looks at me as if she's afraid of me. And I thought, I can't be angry like this with my wife. This isn't productive. This isn't what a man of God or a pastor, how they should behave. This is dangerous. And because of this situation, it caused me to rethink how I deal with anger altogether. Even when the guy is driving down the street, threatens me. The Bible says, be angry and sin not. I really believe that that means that those chemicals, that those things that God put in our body, He did it for a reason. But we're only supposed to use those things when we have to. And that means that we have to take control of how we deal with the other stresses in our life so that we don't get in those situations where we're able to burst out or be angry or be aggressive. Those types of things can be very dangerous for us. In fact, they can slowly destroy us. They can make us sick and they can harm us.
In Proverbs it says that a fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps self-control. And that's something I had a very hard time with for a very long time. At work stress, or, you know, and I was working in the service industry, so to people's face, I had to look presentable, I had to dress well, I had to have a good personality and good character about me. But when I was away from customers or in the back cooking, whatever, I could act, treat people, say whatever I wanted, however I felt. And a lot of times that would come out in anger or frustration. And it wasn't that I would, you know, explode on certain people in the kitchen, but I would just have an angry demeanor about myself. And I think that too often I would just totally give way to my anger. I remember one time I was playing soccer, and we were playing one of our rivals. You know, it was a really good team, and my brother played soccer with me. And I don't know if you've ever had a situation. You have 3 brothers. I have 2 brothers. That somebody's ever threatened your brother or hit your brother or beat your brother up, and you're ready to kill him. Yeah. You know, and as much as you get annoyed with your brothers and you can't stand them, whatever, you're ready to take your brother's side no matter what happened. Now, that happened to me, and it was just some kid totally, took my brother out of a play. Just completely knocked him over. My brother was a freshman. I was a senior. This kid was a senior. He was a big kid. My brother was smaller at the time. And so the play developed, and I ended up defending the ball away from the goal, and it was their kick towards our goal, and I marked up with the kid. I matched up with him, and I grabbed his jersey at the bottom, and he was really close to me, and I said, if you ever do that again to my brother, I will take you out of the game. And for me, that was never my personality on the field. I try to be a leader. I try to be vocal. I try to be very positive. But I told this guy, dude, if you ever mess with my brother again, you will not play this game anymore, you know. And I was really serious about it because he was messing with my brother. You just don't do that,
Right.
you know. I can hurt my brother, that's fine. You can't touch him, you know. And so this anger came up and rised up inside of me, and I never did. I never hurt him, never had the chance. Like, nothing ever happened again. He was really passive the rest of the game. But I really feel like even still, now I think about it, I shouldn't have said that. I was sinning. I was letting that rage build up inside of me to the point where if something happened, I would have hurt him, or I would have, you know, done something I would have regretted. And I think, man, there's so many points in my life where I've gotten to that place where my temperature, you know, and my rage is just elevated so high that I'm just like, forget it. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm so angry. And I think we can get that way with work, with school, in relationships, like you said. The stress of homework and finals and midterms, whatever. The stress of trying to make the team, trying to be the best on the team. All that stuff just compounds on us. And adults will look at young people and say, you don't know what stress is. You don't know what these problems are like. I have a mortgage. I have a house payment. I have to pay for all our food. You know, this, that. But in teenagers' lives, the stress feels the same. I mean, parents don't maybe realize that. They're like, oh, we've lived through it. We've done it. You'll be fine. But for a kid at that point in time, they look at that and go, what are you talking about? This is where I'm at. If you can't sympathize with me, then I don't want to hear anything you're talking about, you know? I think that's such a big thing for parents to really try to understand where their kid's coming from. Because when kids get angry at certain things, parents will just say, oh, you know, stop, or shut up, be quiet, you know, whatever. Even especially little kids at the store, or, you know, they're angry about something at the restaurant or whatever. I think that parents need to somewhat sympathize with their kids. They don't need to give in to what their kids are doing and allow them to do certain things that may be destructive, or, you know, build patterns in their life where they get away with their anger, temper tantrums. But I think it's important for parents to really understand where their kids are coming from. The problem is also parents have so much stress they can't even think about that. They're trying to provide, they're trying to make a way for their life, they're trying to build a better life for their kids. They don't necessarily have the time to really focus on their own kids' anger problems.
That's true.
So, yeah. I don't know how you handle anger in your life or how you manage it. Is it something that you keep it all inside and you try and dispel it through worship, the word, prayer? How do you manage anger in your life when you're struggling?
Well, for me personally, my personality, anger is something that I have to be extra careful about. You know, I'd say this is an area where I could be weak, and I don't know if that has something to do with my personality or if it's just my life experiences, the things that I've been through. But through my life, maybe it's because of my time in the military, some of the things I saw growing up, and, you know, growing up with brothers and being in fights and things like that. It's always been very easy for me to try to solve my problems physically. And so for me, when I'm angry, I immediately want a confrontation. It might not be a physical one, but at least a verbal one. I want to be able to talk about it. I want to get in someone's face. I want to deal with the situation. If somebody offends me, it doesn't matter if they're smaller, bigger, the same. It doesn't matter. I want to deal with them. And one thing that's very hard for me, because when I get angry, I immediately go there. I immediately look for the confrontation. So I can get myself in trouble. And I have gotten in trouble. And many times, I can even remember back when I was in the Army, times when I got in fights, as Pastor Dave was talking about. And the guy had every reason. I had every reason to get in a fight with the other person, and they were getting in a fight with me. It was equal. We were both fighting each other, but we got in trouble for that. My life and experiences that I've had, those times when I've lashed out, when I've reached out, I found myself getting in trouble. So what I've had to learn to do, and what I'm still learning how to do, is instead of allowing myself to get to a place where I'm ready to snap, I have to stop earlier. So I'm not the kind of person, to answer your question, that bottles up anger. If I'm angry at you, you know right away. And then that's something, so for me, I have to learn, where some people need to learn to let things out, I have to learn to keep things in. And so one of the things I immediately learned to do is that when I feel that stress, when I feel the pressure, when I want to react to something badly, I have to get away from the person that I'm upset with, and I have to vent, or the situation that I'm upset with, and I have to deal with it. Whether that means talking to somebody else and saying, look, I'm very upset. This person has offended me. What do you think I should do? How do you think I should handle it? And not just talking about that, like I'm not talking bad about the person, but talking about the way I'm reacting and getting advice on how to deal with the problem in a healthy way, not to run them down. That's gossip, and that's a sin too. But how to deal with the problem better. That's one thing that I have to do. Another thing I have to do is sometimes I have to leave the situation. There's so many ways to calm down. And when you're really angry at somebody, you don't want to calm down. You want to deal with that person sometimes, if you're that kind of person like me. So one thing I have to do is find a way to burn up that energy in a healthy way. Maybe I need to take the dogs for a walk. Maybe I need to go do something physical. Maybe I need to just do some push-ups and just burn up some of the adrenaline that I feel inside of me. But when I do those things, what I find out is when I go back to the situation, I don't even want to handle it the same way anymore. I still might be upset. I still might want to talk about it, but I'm not angry. I'm just wanting to deal with the situation. The anger that we feel can take us into places where we act so badly if we're not careful, and we lash out at people, and we feel that we're right because they've done something against us. But ultimately, I rarely have been angry and lashed out at somebody that I don't look back and say, boy, I wish I would have handled that differently. When we're angry, it causes us to say things that we don't mean to say. It causes us to hurt other people that we don't want to hurt. In fact, I can be so angry at my wife, and that's a hard thing. My wife is a person that I love in this world more than anybody else. My wife can also make me more angry than almost anybody else. She knows how to say things because she knows me very well, and she knows how to say things that'll push my buttons and cause me to act out. But any time I've reacted angrily to my wife and things that I've said and things that I've done, like I said, being intimidating or anything like that, I felt horribly guilty. It's been a sin, not just a sin to my wife, but a sin to God. And I find myself going to God and repenting and going to my wife and repenting and trying to figure out what to do so that I don't do it the same way the second time around. The last thing I want to do, we don't have children yet, but the last thing I want to do when I have children is let them see me get angry or to lose control or to even act in a way that's scary or intimidating. I want them to feel safe with me, and I want my wife to feel safe with me. So just the fact that anger can cause me to treat the person that I love more than anybody else in this world, treat them in a bad way, that tells me that it's not something that's healthy. And it's something that I have to deal with personally. Nobody makes me angry. In fact, you choose to be angry. And I try not to even say the phrase, you're making me angry, because nobody makes me do anything that I don't really want to do. I'm choosing to be angry as a reaction to what they're doing. So I have to choose better choices. And so the way that I deal with my anger, Pastor Dave, is I choose to handle it better. Do I always make that choice? No. I make mistakes. I make mistakes a lot. I'm human just like anybody else. But as I'm getting older, as I've been more mature, as I've been working as a pastor, realizing as I deal with people's lives and I really look at the Word of God, how foolish and how stupid those things are, it's helping me to learn to handle things in a better way.
You know, I want to go back to something you said where you kind of step away from the situation when you get angry, because I find myself doing the same thing. You're one to kind of be aggressive and figure out the solution and figure out what's going on and be very forward. But actually, I'm one that kind of more bottles it up and kind of holds on to it. I try and justify it in my own brain, like this is why this is happening or this is why this situation's going this way. And I don't bottle it up completely and then explode, 2 years later or whatever. Some people do that. My wife can hold on to a lot of things for a while, and then eventually I'm just like, what is going on? And she'll just spill the beans, and she'll just tell me everything that's going on. I'm like, why didn't you say that earlier? So I try not to hold in too long, but I definitely do go to people. And I think that's a huge thing, is being able to release some of that anger. Not going out and telling people, man, this person's a jerk and I can't stand them and they did something stupid to me. Don't talk with them, don't hang out with them anymore. But it's kind of like I generally go to the people that I care about, that love me, that I trust, and say, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm struggling here. I don't want to be frustrated. I don't want to be angry, but I don't know what else to do. Kind of like you said, ask advice and just kind of open up the situation for conversation rather than just exploding. But I think that's important because a lot of young people, when they get angry with a teacher or with another kid at school, they'll go to their posse, their group, their friends, and they'll go, dude, this just happened, and I'm furious, or I'm mad, whatever. We got to do something about it. And they'll get this mob mentality going where, oh, we're not talking to that person anymore, or we're not going to hang out with this person, or we're going to go teach them a lesson, right? I've seen it in school. It happened with me as a kid growing up. You know, some kid nailed me with a dodgeball right in the face from like 2 feet away. I mean, kicked me right back off my feet. I landed on the floor on my back, and I was just dazed and confused. And this was a kid nobody really liked. I got along with him just fine. And for some reason, he was coming down on me, trying to smoke me in this game of dodgeball. And a couple of the girls came, picked me up, helped me get up. You know, one of the girls was really feisty, really small, and she was like, "You can't let him do that. You can't let him do that." And so she got all the other big guys to come, and they kind of formed this group around him, and they were really frustrated and angry with him for hitting me with a dodgeball. And this mob mentality came around, and it wasn't anything I started. I was just a recipient of a dodgeball to the face. And all of a sudden, all these kids just started wailing on him with dodgeballs, pushing him, shoving him. He landed on the ground. They were literally kicking him. This was 8th grade at a Christian school. And the one little girl, when he finally stood up, she pushed him as hard as she could right into the bleachers. And he cracked a rib in his chest, and he had to go to the hospital. He had to wear a huge patch around him for a very long time during school to protect him. And it wasn't anything I started. It wasn't out of my anger, but it was out of anger of my class that they jacked this kid up. And after half a year, he left the school. Like he wasn't going to deal with it anymore. And it was just, I noticed how dangerous it can be when your anger builds into this mob mentality and you go forward when everybody's angry. And it might be for no good reason. So, anywho, we've got to take a short break, and we'll come back with you shortly and talk a little bit more about anger. We'll definitely share some stories, but we want to hear some of your stories. If you have some examples of anger in your life that we haven't touched on, and you don't mind sharing them on the air, we'd love to have you. We'd love to hear your stories, not to reminisce about our angry experiences, but to really shed some light on it and see how we can overcome our anger. So we'll be back with you in just a little bit. Thanks.
You are watching ABN.
Hi, this is David Wood from Jesus or Muhammad. As I'm sure you've heard, ABN has some significant financial needs. A lot of the equipment here is either outdated or damaged, and it's affecting the broadcast. I'll say ABN does a great job with what they have, but they could be doing much more if they had some newer equipment, some newer cameras. And so I encourage everyone to support the work that's going on here. We'd like to have more broadcasts, more shows, more programs, and we can only do that through financial donations. And so I encourage everyone out there to contribute whatever you can. And beyond all of this, apart from the technical needs, there's also the security needs given the increase in threats. And so if ABN is going to continue carrying on this work, they're going to need your support as they always have. And so as as we end out the year and you're thinking about where you'd like to donate, I don't think you'll find a better place than ABN.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show, Who Am I? We're talking about anger today. I'm here with Pastor Jared. Wow, that was weird. But before we get into anger, I want to talk to you a little bit about giving. We just saw a little blurb about giving to the show and giving to abnsat.com. And we want to encourage you to give. This is something that's a blessing to many people. And like they said on the commercial there, it's not just for technical needs and for upgrading systems and for stage designs or set designs, but it's also for security purposes, for security systems and making sure that the studios are secure and safe and the people that work here in the studios are safe. So we want to encourage you to give. If this show has been a blessing to you, if you've received something from the show, whether it's the show Who Am I, this youth program that we do, or if it's a show that you watch throughout the day, we just want to encourage you. If God's been blessing you through this ministry, through this outreach, give. Please give. It's nothing that Pastor Jared or I earn. We don't earn any living from the show. We come here because we love it, and it's exciting for us to be here with you. But make sure that you're giving money. Make sure you're giving something practical to the show, as it's been such a blessing in your life. Let's continue talking about anger for the next 20 minutes or so. There's so many ways we can build up anger in our lives, and we can just struggle with it so much that we either bottle it up and let it explode out from the top at some point when we've just had enough, or we kind of like let it out. Anytime we're angry, we tell everyone needs to know about it. Which do you think is better, or is there some type of happy medium?
Well, it's funny. It made me think of something when you said that, especially the bottling up. I've always heard this expression, and I think it's, at least it used to be, a common understanding in psychology, that depression is a form of anger. It's they call it anger turned inwards. It's the bottling up of anger and turning it against yourself. You begin to be so stressed out and frustrated with your life, and there's no way that you can let it out, that you begin to doubt yourself. You begin to be frustrated with yourself, and you can actually go to a place of depression where you don't have the you don't feel like getting up in the morning. You don't even feel like dealing with problems because you're so frustrated or overwhelmed. Anytime frustrations in life, stresses in life, things in life become too difficult for us, our bodies are designed to react, and they're designed to cause us to have feelings and that come from hormones and adrenaline and things that are supposed to help us to think clearer, to run faster, to deal with problems. I heard this example, and I don't know if I've ever used it on the show before, but a zebra who's being chased by a lion is pumped full of chemicals in his own body so that he can run faster, he can jump further, he can get away from the lion. But when I'm sitting in traffic, or I've got a mortgage payment that's late, or I have bills that I don't think I can pay, I have those same exact feelings, but there's no lion chasing after me, and there's no way for me to burn it off. In fact, I'm just sitting there stuck and frustrated, and all those things are just bottling up inside of me, and those chemicals can even hurt you. They can cause you to get sick, and they can cause you to live a shorter life, and they can damage you. So when we act out in our anger, we can hurt people that we love or hurt ourselves. When we bottle up our anger, we can suffer from depression and anxiety and stress and all these other things. In fact, and I didn't want to make this longer, but I have a illustration, somebody that I was just talking to today, a young lady that I've been working with. This young lady's been dealing with a lot of anxiety problems. And so we meet and we talk and we try to help her work out some of her anxiety. And as we've been talking, I've been starting to get to know her better and find out a lot of the things that she's dealt with. She has a lot of things that have happened in her life, and they've been bad choices that she's made, and they cause her to feel very angry with herself. And that anger that she feels with herself has been there for a long time now, maybe 10 years. It's hurt relationships, it's hurt her opportunities to finish her education and start her career, and basically everything that she wants to have, a nice family, children, a nice career, all those things have been held back from her because she's made mistakes. And so now, because she's been angry with herself and there's been no way for her to deal with that, it's caused her to deal with really bad anxiety. Now, so when she'll be driving down the street or something stressful happens to her, she can have what's called an anxiety attack, where she has trouble breathing, her chest can start to hurt, she could even black out, and it's because of the anger. So I think when we deal with all these anger things, whether we bottle it in or let it out, what's the best of those situations? I think really both of those things are equally dangerous. They cause us problems, and even though I always seem to lash out, there's even areas in my life where I have to deal with those times when I hold it in and it eats away at me. So it's either hurting somebody else or eating away at me. I think the best solution is you got to figure out what's getting to you, what's frustrating you, what's stressing you out, what's hurting you, and you have to deal with that. If it's mistakes that you've made, if it's situations that you feel guilty about, you have to find somebody you have to talk to. The Bible tells us that when we're in sin, we stay in the darkness because we don't want our deeds to be known. But when we take our sin or our darkness to the light, those things become known, and it no longer causes us to be trapped in the darkness. That dark place is dangerous for us. It hurts us and it damages us. So it's important that we find out what's frustrating us. Are we having trouble with our bills? We need to deal with our budget. Are we having trouble with our school? We need to figure out how we're managing our time, and if we have more time, we can focus on our school. Whatever the thing is that's hurting us, is it relationships? Is it because we're mean to people? Have we hurt our friends and now we're wondering why we don't have friends? Whatever the thing is that's hurting us, we have to go to that and we have to deal with it. And we have to figure out what's the best thing to do, even if it's embarrassing, even if it's hard. That thing can help you, and then it'll stop that anger from hurting you and hurting others.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we can look at the scripture that be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. We tend to do the opposite. We tend to very quickly speak and shout out what's going on and be loud about it. We don't listen to anybody, and we're very quick to be angry for any reason whatsoever. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you get angry. Something goes wrong at a restaurant, and they bring you the wrong order. You get frustrated and angry, and you make a big scene about it or whatever. And you get people on your side to kind of back you so that you feel like you're supported. Like, it's all right, these guys got my back, I can do whatever I want now. I think anger can a lot of times produce unforgiveness. And like you were saying, we bottle up anger sometimes inside. I think sometimes it's okay to do that. And to an extent, that may be a positive thing, is to not lash out every single time something happens. Right. And there has to be some type of balance, but it's different for you than it is for me, than it is for some of our viewers or, everybody. We have to find that balance. Because I know that when you're angry, you get frustrated with certain things, and that produces unforgiveness in your life, and that will just tear you apart. You can be unforgiving towards your spouse, towards your family, towards siblings, towards friends, towards yourself. And what that really does is it kills you from the inside out. When you can't forgive others, because God sent His Son Jesus to die for us because of sin. It was a form of forgiveness to us. And yes, He died and rose from the dead so that we can live eternity with Him. Right? He took stripes on His back for our healing. There's a lot of reasons that Jesus came, lived, died, and rose again. But I think that one of the biggest reasons is forgiving us of our sins. And if we can't forgive others, that's a big deal for God. I was just talking with one of the elders, and we prayed for a lady at the church last Wednesday. And a lot of the stuff he said hit home to me. And he wasn't even praying for me. But I was just sitting there taking it all in. And as he was talking about unforgiveness in our lives, I thought, who have I been unforgiving to? Because sometimes in our subconscious, we don't even know. We just look at someone and we go, man, I don't like them. I don't know why, though. Like, what about them don't I like? And it's something that may be something deeper than we even realize. And he prayed this blanket prayer over her, what he called. He said, if there's anybody in your life that you're unforgiving towards, let God bring it to the surface and help you deal with it. And I started praying that over my own life. And I started praying about anger as well. If there's any reason I'm angry for no matter what it is, Lord, bring it to the surface, help me to deal with it, and help me to move past it. I always kind of picture my life, especially growing up as a kid, like my life advances through my struggles. Well, I have a hard time studying. Like I have really bad studying skills. I don't pay attention very well reading a book, but in class I'll do great. That's perfect. So when we had a lot of book work, I wouldn't do it. And I would have to teach myself to work past that. Once I got past that struggle, there was something else coming. And I knew it was coming, and I'd have to figure out and work past that. And I feel like still in my life, emotionally and mentally, there's phases where once I work past this thing and get past this situation or this struggle, there'll be something else. And I'll have to manage that, deal with that, get it behind me, figure it out, and keep moving forward. But there's always going to be something coming out. And I think we have to manage our time and our energy so well at solutions to the problems. Because a lot of times we get angry for no reason, and that anger builds up, and we're not trying to solve anything anymore. We're trying to pick fights. We're trying to handle things in a big way, in a macho way, and we're not getting to the root of any solution. You ever find that in your life where there's things that are deep inside you didn't know about or you knew were there, but you just kind of pushed everything away and you didn't get to the solution?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you talk about that prayer for forgiveness, and I remember, forgiveness is such an important thing, and unforgiveness is such a strong tool that the enemy uses to come in and find a way to come after us and hurt us. And when I say the enemy, I say that Satan himself has a plan to come after us, and that enemy that the Bible says that we have is looking for an opportunity to destroy us. And unforgiveness is such a huge thing, and it's not just unforgiveness with other people. There's points where we have to forgive ourselves. I mean, there's times in life where we make mistakes that we regret, and we regret them badly. And if you don't think about them, they're fine. If you ever think about them, they embarrass you, and you wish they never happened. And sometimes when we have those things in our life that we feel guilty about or we regret, and we don't deal with it, it causes us to have a problem forgiving ourselves and being angry at ourselves, and we don't even realize it. It eats away at us from the inside. Well, one time I was trying to figure out, I wanted to see God do something in my life, and I was concerned because of what the Bible says about unforgiveness. That the Bible, first of all, what the Bible says is that if we want God to hear our prayers or answer our prayers, we can't have any unforgiveness. We have to forgive others. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, boy, I want God to hear my prayers. I want Him to answer my prayers. Lord, if I have any, and I prayed this prayer, I said, Lord, if I have any unforgiveness, please show it to me, because I don't think I do, but if I do, I need to know. And it was funny, because after I prayed that prayer, I didn't really think about it, and that next day, I thought of about 3 people that I didn't like. They never done anything to me in a big way. I mean, in little ways, they annoyed me, or they irritated me, or they just rubbed me the wrong way, kind of like Pastor Dave, you're saying, it's subconsciously, you just can't stand the person. And I realized that I had a certain level of unforgiveness, and God also showed me that I even had unforgiveness for myself. I had areas in my own life where I was upset with myself, and I was frustrated and angry and unforgiving. Well, the first thing that I did was I looked at my own problems. I looked at mistakes that I made, and I prayed a prayer, and I said, God, I'm sorry for these mistakes. I know that you paid for them on the cross. I give these to you, and I'm not going to dwell on them anymore. And when I prayed that prayer, it was like a weight got lifted off my chest. I stopped thinking about the mistakes that I had made, and I started to move on and get better. The 3 people that I felt unforgiveness towards, the people in my life, they hadn't done anything wrong to me in a big way, so I thought it'd be silly if I went to them and talked about the situation, because it really wasn't a big situation. But instead what I did is I called each of them and I said, can I take you out to lunch? Can we go to lunch? And I took them out to lunch, and we just talked. We didn't talk about any problems. We just had a good time. I paid for their lunch, and I decided to be friendly to them and to be kind to them and to love them. And in each of the situations, we had a nice time. We got along better, and I became friends in a better way with these people than I'd ever been before. Now, these people aren't my close friends, and I still think that if I was spending a lot of time with them, they'd probably do things that made me upset, and I wouldn't want to be around them too much. But I'm not around them because I'm mad at them. I'm not around them because I don't forgive them anymore. That's all been taken care of. I'm just not around them as much because they're just not the kind of people that I enjoy being around. But I wouldn't mind being around them because I have no problem with them. And that's an important thing, to just deal with the people that we think we have unforgiveness towards, even if it's not in a big way. If it is in a big way, if somebody's hurt you in a way that's been awful for you, it's even more important, because in those situations, your unforgiveness is only hurting yourself. You have to let that go. You have to give that to God, and you have to let him come in and heal that broken place. And when he does that, you get rid of those unforgiving thoughts. And what will happen is you take away the enemy's opportunity to come in and hurt you with that.
Is that why you asked me out to lunch last week?
It wasn't Pastor Dave. You know, I do remember Pastor Dave calling me before being pretty angry. Do you remember that?
I do.
I've only seen him angry once. I didn't see it. It was on the phone.
It was on the phone.
But a friend of mine made a joke that he didn't appreciate, and I was right there. And I don't blame him. You know, I didn't like the joke. And boy, was he mad.
I don't remember the whole thing. We probably shouldn't talk about it on the
Well,
air.
we won't have to tell him what happened. But
I remember the anger and frustration I had. And I remember how silly it was afterward, like thinking about how dumb the reaction was after. When your personality is just one of, wait, this isn't a big deal. Calm down. And it's the same way my dad is. Hold on, relax. Things are going to be fine. And after thinking about it for a while, I just went, man, this is so dumb.
yeah. Oh, well, I was the one who made the joke.
I remember.
But it wasn't supposed to be the way Pastor Dave heard it.
I took it a wrong
Yeah,
way.
it wasn't towards him. It was towards my other friend, and but he took it. He took it as I was being disrespectful. So I understood that. But yeah, that was the only time I think I've ever seen you.
It's silly now that we think about it. But I don't get very angry at a lot of people, and I think God's given me a high tolerance for listening to people, hearing their problems, dealing with people, not being so angry or frustrated with them. But also that comes with, patience. Having patience is a huge thing. Short tolerance for, stupidity makes you angry, right?
Right.
And not having patience with people around you can cause you to be really frustrated. And it adds on to your level of stress, especially if it's people you work with. I find in my life, I don't work at a church. I work in business, and I work in sales, and some of the people I work with just irritate me. And it's a 40 hours a week job, and it's every day seeing these people going, man, this is ridiculous. Do we really have to go through this again, or does this really have to happen again? You'll hear the same stories over and over again about how great they are. And you just want to go, man, you're not that great. And for me, it's just, I bite my tongue so many times, and I have to hold my anger back at so many levels and just realize, man, this is a Christian. This is someone who loves God. And in my life, I want to be that person who, on the outward, shows God's love and expresses his love to others. I can't say certain things I want to say. And I can't react certain ways that I'd like to. And even on the phone with people that call and are frustrated with how the orders are going out or how the material worked for them, because I sell a lot of tooling and a lot of drills, a lot of saw blades, a lot of metal tooling for different die shops and things. People will call and be very angry. It's because their thing's not going well, and they have a lot of anger in their life, and that will translate into my life. And it's just like, I don't need this. I can hang up on you right now and never talk to you again, and that'd be fine for me. But they're the people that I live for. That's my business. That's what I'm doing. And if I did that to everyone who made me angry, I'd be out of business. I'd lose my job for sure. And I think about that in ministry as well. You're handling other people's situations. And when they make wrong choices and you notice it, sometimes you want to slap them over the head and say, that was dumb. What are you doing? You're making things worse. But you can't do that. Or the people leave. They won't come to you anymore. They won't respect you. And they'll leave you for another situation, another pastor, another church maybe. But especially in teenagers' lives, this is a youth program. The people that are around you, if you express your anger and lash out at people, you'll lose friends. I mean, that's just plain and simple. People don't want to be around the angry person. You may have a command about yourself or a control about your environment or people around you, and you may be in charge for a lot of things. You may have some type of leadership qualities that people look at you and see you differently, but being angry and being frustrated around so many people that you deal with, it's not healthy, and it draws people and pushes them away from you. rather than drawing them to you. And it seems like that one thing we always need is attention or love, or for other people to like us or be satisfied with what we're doing. And when you're angry all the time and you just have this bitterness about you or unforgiveness, and it totally pushes people away. When I'm angry, at home with my wife, whatever, I've noticed I've had my brother-in-law, sister-in-law over on the couch, and me and my wife are on the love seat, and I'll get frustrated about something, and they know. And I don't have to say anything different. Just my demeanor, my appearance just changes. And Linda will look at me and just go, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, oh my gosh, I let it pop out and I didn't even notice. I let it get the best of me and I didn't want it to. And so I think it's really hard to manage our anger. But it's something that's progressive. Once you work at it and try to be better at it, other things will come at you. And you have to continue working at it. It's just like anything else in this life. It feels like life is just all work. And it really is. Working at certain things in your life, being better at this, being better at that, working literally at your jobs, working at your relationships. It's all about being a better person and growing in who you are. And it's all essentially about building the kingdom of God and reaching the lost for God. And how can we do that when we're angry all the time?
Right.
That's not going to draw anybody to the love of God. That's not going to build the kingdom of God. So we've got a few minutes left. I just wanted to leave the floor open for you if you want to share anything else.
Well, I'll leave it with something, something recent. I was thinking about, we talked about the anger coming out thing, and I was kind of going through some of the thoughts, thinking about some of the things Pastor Dave was saying, and what I've noticed is something that I have a tendency to do is I have a tendency to easily react when somebody is disrespectful towards me. And it's not always like I'm lashing out or trying to yell at them or correct them, but it changes the way that I feel towards them. And if it's serious enough, I could lash out, but a lot of times it's just I get a bad attitude. And I begin to act badly, and I begin to be difficult. And what I realized is that God gave me the ability to get angry for when times that it really mattered. When someone was trying to hurt me, hurt my family, or I needed to escape, like get away from a dangerous situation. And that I was wasting that time spending it getting upset or angry with situations that don't matter. I found myself being angry. The more I was angry, the more I would become angry. And it was easier for me to get angry, and it was easier for me to react badly to it. And I began to pray, and I said, God, I know that this isn't what you want for me. How can I handle this better? And I believe that the Lord showed me something about myself that helped me to see something, was that I'm too busy defending who I am, and it's caused me not to spend enough time on focusing who He is, or defending Him, or lifting Him up, or making Him known. And that if I want God to use me in my life in a powerful way, in a way that can help other people and change lives and be important on this earth, that I have to stop worrying about what people think, say, or act about me, and start worrying about whether or not they know Him. When I was able to do that and let that go, I began to feel a lot more peace. I began to focus on how I can help people, and how the people around me, that even if they say things that upset me, how they're special to God and how they can be special to me too. Excuse me. I begin to also realize how people that I care about, people that I love, how those relationships are hurt when I act out in a bad way, and that I want those relationships to last, and I want them to be special, and I want them to be good. So I think I'd like to leave it with this, is if it's not easy to upset you, if it's not easy to make you feel disrespected, if you're not the kind of person that takes everything so seriously, it's not easy to get angry. And if you can be the kind of person that realizes that you're not here to make a name for yourself, but you're here to make a name for God, then you won't react to things in the same way.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think it's so important for us to pray about it. I know we talked about, kind of managing our anger and how to displace it and share with others rather than gossip. Giving it to others that we trust, that we know care about us, and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. what can I do? How can I fix this or help manage? But I think prayer is huge. And when you take the time in a situation where you can get angry and just say, God, I need you. Right now I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. Sometimes He'll just give you that peace that passes all understanding. You don't know how it comes. You don't know how it gets there. But something just washes over you and you're like, man, that feels good. And you know, for a moment, all the stress, all the fear, all the worry goes away. And you're left there sitting in the peace of God. And it's because He does. He hears your prayers. He loves you. And He wants to take care of you. So ask Him. You know, I mentioned that we'll be doing a show one more time, and I won't be here next week. And I just want to say, you know, I've had a great time doing the show, and we're just taking a sabbatical, just a break. We're planning to come back, and we're hoping to come back soon, and we're just taking some time to get some things in our lives prioritized and worked on in our different areas of ministry and serving in the church. And I just want to say it's been great working here with the people that are here, with Brother Bassam, who's been just so gracious with us, and the whole tech team that's been here. They've been wonderful.
Yeah.
And next week I won't be here. You know, it's my wife's birthday, and so I'm going to take her out, and we're just going to have a fun time out on the town, and we'll probably go out to eat, and I might get her a present or something. I don't know. But so I just wanted to say that I've had a great time being on the show. I hope you all have enjoyed the time we spent together, and I pray that all the best for you. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Have a good night.